Hi, my name is Ken Davidian, and welcome to episode 5 of Organization Theory in Space. This video series is based on the Oxford Handbook of Organizational Change and Innovation, second edition, edited by Marshall Scott Poole and Andy Van de Ven. In this episode, we're going to cover the fourth major part of the handbook on the topic of evolutionary models of change. As you recall, the evolutionary motor is one of 4 idealized motors of how change occurs. In reality, multiple motors are working across multiple levels and combined with and dependent on each other. We're talking about each one separately first before we start combining them together. You probably remember from our first episode of OT in Space that the evolutionary motor is based on the competitive combination of 3 forces: variation, selection, and retention. This part of the handbook has 4 chapters covering different aspects of the evolution motor, chapters 18 through 21, and we'll talk a little bit about each of them. Let's get started. Chapter 18 focuses on using the evolutionary motor forces of variation, selection, and retention to delve into questions such as how do new industries emerge. Topics of discussion include competitive isomorphism, how organizations transition from the small specialist category to the large generalist category, landscape ruggedness and fitness, community disruption, and institutional dynamics. Chapter 19 introduces a new model to complement the evolutionary work done since the 1960s and 70s. Traditionally, there were 3 streams of evolutionary work done. The first linking biological to biosocial processes of change, the second creating complex and abstract simulation models of evolution, and the third using data to test the evolutionary theories of change processes. This chapter asserts that the evolutionary model can be a practical way of formulating and implementing organizational change agency and strategy. Chapter 20 applies complexity science to organizational change. Complexity science is a combination of many tools that describe systemic and dynamic properties of living systems. It incorporates the dimension of time and is interested in both the progression of events as well as the mechanisms of change. In this way, complexity science combines both variance and process research methods. Finally, Chapter 21 provides an in-depth discussion and review of landscape models of organizational change. This model conceptualizes organizational change and innovation as a search for best fit within a complex landscape. Organizations must operate within this fitness landscape, which is analogous to the economic concept of performance functions. Landscapes have many peaks and valleys. The peaks correspond to stable organizational configurations, and the valleys result with any change that makes the configuration of the organization non-stable. This model is widely used in computational simulation work of organizational change. So, looking at how this part of the handbook is distributed on the level of analysis hierarchy, the evolutionary model chapters are found at the overview and societal levels, and also at the organizational and intra-organizational levels. I don't know if that means anything, and we'll just keep an eye on this as we keep covering the rest of the book. So how does the evolutionary motor relate to the space industry, the space sector? Well, specifically for commercial space, the evolutionary motor is a great way to model how commercial space works. The variation, selection, and retention forces have proxies in the real world that we can measure. The variation force proxy is the number of independent sources of innovation, the number of companies generating new ideas. The selection force is proxied by the finance world, both public and private. So the number of independent finance organizations and the total amount of financing available will help select which innovations are going to be moved forward and progressed into the marketplace. Finally, the retention force proxy is the number of independent customers and the overall level of demand of those customers. So the customers will select out which or will retain which innovations are going to be kept and actually become successful in the marketplace. Chapter 19 also provided a very good justification for using evolutionary motor research to help with corporate strategy. And this is what we're trying to do in our industry emergence research in general. I'll leave that for another video, But for now, that's it. Next time on OT in Space, I'll give an overview of the fifth of the 7 handbook parts. This one discussing hybrid change process models. I hope you found the material interesting, and if so, please subscribe or hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss what comes next. OT in Space is produced by Impossible Research, LLC. Impossible Research, or IRL, mainly conducts process research on the topics of innovation and industry emergence within the context of commercial space industries. IRL also offers research consulting and STEAM outreach. This video is intended for educational purposes only.